You know, we do what we can. I got your back, you know. But today is Valentine's Day, and it's the day when our hearts turn to love, and we get thinking about that. And we're moving into our new sermon series, which I'm really excited about. And it's entitled Love Is. And we're going to begin to look at 1 Corinthians 13 and begin to break it down a little bit and begin to think about God's love and how we play that out, how we live that out in our lives. We're going to look at what that exactly looks like and break this chapter into pieces and kind of see what it is required for us to live a godly life of love in all that we do. From an early age, most of us are taught what love means and what it looks like to be lived out and things of that nature. In reality, by now, most of us have learned that love goes beyond candy hearts. It goes beyond those little chocolate things. It goes beyond those conversation hearts. You ever seen those? Say, hug me, love me, all that kind of stuff. Those are pretty cool. And if you're in elementary school, you got to pick out the right one because you don't want to send the wrong message to the girl that's near you. You don't want to mess that up. That's pretty important because it could be pretty embarrassing. And I was thinking about how it is that the world views love a little bit, and how we look at it, and how this idea of love is communicated to us and impressed upon us through our media. And specifically, I'm a music guy, so I was thinking about how love is expressed to us through music. Now, as I was thinking back about all this, I thought, well, what was something that I learned about love? And the first one I remembered was the Beatles. All you need is love. Then I learned that love is actually more than words, okay? Come on, some of you people that are closer to my age, you know this song. It's up to you. And then in 2013, I learned from an animated princess that love is an open door, whatever that means. All of this multitude of songs, and this is just a tiny little fraction of what is actually out there. There's hundreds of songs, thousands of songs related to love and the idea of love and what it means to love. There are movies, all those romantic comedies that I've watched with my wife. I don't know how many I've seen, but countless of them. All of those things like that. All of these books that are all about love. Whole bookstores full of books about love and romance and things of that nature. There's been a lot of information imparted to us, a lot of information given to us about this idea of love. And in fact, what's kind of happened at times is it's kind of muddied the water, I guess, about what it is to love and be loved and what that looks like and how that works exactly. For the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and allow it to be our guide, to show us what it means to love as God has intended, what God's plan is for love and how this looks. In 1 Corinthians 13:4, we discover today that love requires of the believer patience, kindness, and a humbleness as we seek to follow the example of Jesus. It requires of us to put forth our very best and to love others with the love of Jesus in all that we do. If you have your Bible, turn to me to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, beginning in verse 4. We're going to give you the sneak peek this week. We're going to look down farther than verse 4 just to kind of get your mind thinking about where we're going to be going. But 1 Corinthians 13, beginning in verse 4. Paul writes, he said, love is patient, love is kind, It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. The first thing that we learn from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4, the first thing that we can pick out, 3 words. Love is patient. Love is patient. That's the first thing that's there. And when we think about that, and we think about this patience in love and how that looks and how that is communicated to other people, we think about God and His patience with us. God is a very patient God. He's been very patient with us. When we look, Psalm 103 verse 8, if you have your Bible, look at that. Psalm 103 verse 8. David writes this. Now, David is a guy that understood what it means to have patience shown to him by God. He was a guy that was called a man after God's own heart. He was a guy that was one that was supposed to be a godly leader over all of Israel. David messed up. David messed up big time. If you remember the story, David went out, and while his troops were in battle, he stayed home, which really wasn't where he belonged to begin with. Then while he was there, he saw the neighbor lady taking a bath and had her brought to him. And he slept with her. She became pregnant with a child that was his. And instead of being honest and open about the whole thing, he had her husband killed. He's experienced God's love in a way that many of us have never experienced. He understood what it meant to be loved and have that patience, God's love and patience upon him. David writes, "The Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in love." Those simple words, he understands the Lord's compassion and the Lord's patience and the Lord's graciousness with him. He got it. He lived it. He experienced it. So he understood what this was all about. When we think about God and His grace, we think about Christ and His example. One of the greatest examples is Jesus Himself and how He lived His life. And I've talked about a couple of these recently. One, when we look through Scripture, we can see opportunities where Jesus was patient. Jesus was patient with the disciples when they bickered and fought with one another. Who's the best? Who gets to sit at my right hand? These guys that He'd been teaching day in, day out, they still didn't get it. They were still acting like a bunch of kids, a bunch of knuckleheads. But Jesus was patient with them. Jesus was patient with them even though they didn't get it, they didn't understand. Jesus was patient with those that had a lady sitting on the ground with rocks in their hands, ready to stone her to death for a sin that she had committed. Jesus was patient not only with her, but she was patient with those guys too. And as a result, the woman's life was spared. We think about it. We think about Jesus being patient with the masses and multitudes that followed Him around all the time. There were times when Jesus was tired. We look through Scripture and we see Jesus went off by Himself sometimes. One of those occurrences, Jesus was dealing with the loss of his cousin John the Baptist, who had just been beheaded. And as a result, his heart was broken. He was grieving. But the people came anyway. And He took care of them and He taught them. And not only that, He fed them because they didn't have food to eat. He provided for them. He was patient with them, even though He had His own things He was dealing with, His own things that He was going through. Finally, He was patient on the cross when people ridiculed Him, mocked Him, spit on Him, and offered such scorn upon Him. He was patient with those people. "Father, forgive them," He said. Jesus was patient. And you know what? When we look at that, there's patience been shown to us as well by God and in our life. If we look at our life and our journey with Christ, there has been lots of opportunities where grace and patience has been extended to us. We can see countless examples in our life. We try not to dwell on them, but if you think about it for a minute, there are countless times in our life where we blow it again and again. I myself have went to God and said, "God, I'm sorry I did this thing." And then I come back a day later, a week later, a month later, and I do it all over again, every time. And you know what God says? You're forgiven. He has patience with me even when I don't deserve it. He has patience with all of us even when we don't deserve it, even when we don't seem to get it, when we don't understand it. What God wants us to do, He's patient with us. When we make mistakes, God continues to love us. He's not only patient with us, but He pursues us. He pursues our hearts. He pursues us because He loves us and He desires us to be in a right relationship with Him. That's what He wants from us. God loves us that much. He shows that much patience with us, no matter where we've been or what we've done, because He cares about us. The question is, how do we demonstrate our patience with others? That's easier said than done, right? Easier said than done. Showing patience to other people, that's a hard thing. That's a difficult thing. Are we quick to judge or inform people of when they've messed up or when they've done something wrong? I like to point those things out sometimes. When people have wronged me or messed up, are we quick to do that? Or do we look at things a different way? Do we love these people and show patience with them because Jesus loved us and was patient with us too? There are a lot of people in our life that we have to share patience with. And we talked about it's Valentine's Day. That person that you love more than anybody else on this earth, guess what? Guess what? They will make you mad sometimes. Christina can tell you, I make her mad sometimes. She makes me mad sometimes. It happens. That's the way that works. But you know what love is? Love is being patient with that person and being kind to them, even when it's hard. Showing patience with your kids, even when they keep doing the same stupid things over and over again that drive you crazy. Being patient with your family that have been the way they are for as long as you've been alive. Those coworkers that you have to be patient with, that you show up every day and you know what they're going to say and you know what they're going to do because they do it each and every day. You come to expect it. But God's love shows us that we need to show patience with those around us and show kindness to those around us, even when we don't want to. When I was growing up, my parents, for whatever reason, I don't know why, it seems like a bad idea now that I think about it, they bought me a pair of rabbits. Actually, a buddy and I had the responsibility of taking care of these rabbits. They lived at our house. We had this little cage and we had this building that they lived in. It was a really cool deal. And I don't know, maybe it was to teach me responsibility. I'm not sure it worked out or not. I'm not sure if that was a good plan or not. Or some other life lesson that I've yet to figure out, and I probably won't. I don't know. But I had these two living creatures under my care, so I knew I had to do something, right? So if you are a rabbit owner, you think, well, rabbits eat, got to eat, and we have rabbit food, but I think they might enjoy some carrots because, you know, they're rabbits. And I watched enough Bugs Bunny cartoons to know that that's what they ate. That had to be right. So I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grow some carrots for these rabbits. This is going to be a great idea. So with my own money, I spent about 50 cents on a packet of carrot seeds. And I went to the spot at my house that I thought was going to be great to plant these carrots. Not so great. But that's besides the point. I planted these carrots there. And I dug the hole. I planted them in there. I watered them. And I thought, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to have carrots. I'm going to feed the rabbits. And they're going to be happy. They're going to like me. And this is going to be a good thing. My parents are going to be proud that I was responsible. So I planted them and I watered them. And I went back the next day. No stupid carrots. Nothing. No sign of life. Nothing. Went back the next day. Watered them. Nothing. Went back the next day. Put a little more water on there. Nothing. After about a week, I'm like, I'm out. This is too much. These stupid carrots, I don't even see a sprout. If I had something, give me something, then they might be able to grow. So I walked away from it. And I figured, I give up. And I quit watering them, and I abandoned hope of fresh carrots for my rabbits. And I allowed weeds to grow in the spot, and it just basically took over the whole thing and made a mess out of it. And in the end, there were no carrots. You see, here was kindness. Okay? We need to show patience with them, even when they're growing. We need to show patience and know that it's not going to happen overnight. They're not going to be who God wants them to be overnight. But we need to keep showing them love and patience in what we do. We need to continue to do that because God has done that with us. He's allowed us to make mistakes. He's allowed us not to be what He wants us to be and fall short. There's a second thing that we learn about love, and it is found in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4 also. It says the next three words. The next three words. First it says love is patient. Then Paul goes on to say love is kind. Love is kind. The word kindness, charismades, is a spirit-induced kind of goodness. And it comes from God. That's what the implication here is. It's not just be nice to people, but this is something that requires God in our heart to show that kind of kindness, to show that kind of love to people. This is a different standard. It's beyond our own human harshness and things of that nature. It is something that is God ordained, something brought from God. When we think about kindness and what does this look like, we have to ask ourselves, what does this look like played out in real time? And let's look at Matthew chapter 25. Matthew 25, verses 34 through 40. Jesus does a great job of explaining what this is all about and demonstrating it. Matthew 25, verses 34 through 40. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you the truth, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." These simple acts that Jesus is talking about in Matthew demonstrates this kind of biblical kindness, this kind of kindness that comes from God's presence in our life, allowing us to live that out and show God's love to people in a variety of ways. Christians need to be motivated by their love for others to pour into the lives of people, to pour out that love that's been shown to us and to pour it in to other people. The question is, what are we doing to model kindness? What do we do to model this kindness? Do we serve others out of our love for Jesus and our desire to know him and to make him known? Do we serve that way? We live in a community, believe it or not, where there are kids that go to bed hungry. Do you understand that? People in Council Bluffs, Iowa, there are kids that go to bed with not enough food in their belly. We live in a community where people lack shelter and they have to go to the homeless shelter and have a place to stay. They lack warm clothes. They lack those kind of things. We live in a community where people lack something as simple as a shoulder to cry on. We know how valuable that can be. Someone to listen to them, someone to care about what's going on in their lives. We live in that kind of community. So we have to ask ourselves, when we see these needs, are we willing to help? Or do we turn our back on them and say, you know what, I really don't have time for this. It's going to cause a lot of burden on my life, and it might cost me a little money, and I got a lot of things going, and maybe later on things will die down, and then I'll be able to help out a little bit more, maybe make some contribution. We have to ask ourselves, what can we do when we see people in need? Are we willing to help? We have to ask ourselves that not only as individuals, but as a church. Are we willing to look beyond these walls, look beyond who's sitting here, and even look here? Maybe there's people that need someone to listen to and to talk to. I don't know. Are we willing to do those kind of things and to show God's love in that way, to show that kind of kindness that God has shown to us? Are we willing to say, "Here am I, Lord, send me. I'll do it. I'm all in. I want to do my best to love and show kindness just like you've done to me." At Roosevelt Elementary here in Council Bluffs, there's a familiar face that greets students each day when they arrive at school. Now, the familiar face, Mr. Leeper, he isn't an employee of the school, but he goes to school each day as a volunteer and has since retiring multiple years ago. He's about 81 now, and he's faced with a myriad of health problems. He's got a lot of things. He's been a diabetic for a long, long time, and he has an issue with his lungs. that make breathing hard for him sometimes and causes him a lot of issues, and he has bouts of pneumonia and things of that nature. And really, nobody would blame him if he decided to stay home. Some of these days get pretty cold, and it's not very nice out. And I'm sure there's some days when he wakes up and he's kind of tired, and he doesn't want to do it. But he's been compelled by God's love to show kindness to these kids. And he shows up and volunteers, and he does things like math and reading and things of that nature. And sometimes he's just a listening ear to kids that don't have a mom or dad that care much about them one way or the other. And he just listens to them and listens to them as they tell him stories about what's going on in their life and what's taking place. He grabs his trusty Nebraska baseball hat, puts it on each morning, and goes. And the reason he does that is because he wants to show the kindness that God has shown to him, show that love through kindness that God has demonstrated in his life. It's this love for Jesus that compels him to get up and do this, even if he doesn't feel like it that day. What is God calling us to do? What does God want us to do with our lives? What is he challenging us with? What does he want us to do to show love and to show kindness to others? Is God nudging your heart to do something? Is God nudging your heart in a direction to do something with your life and to do something daily? What is it? And what's holding you back? What's holding me back? What does God want us to do? There's a third and final lesson that we learn from this passage, and it's found in the second half of 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 4. This is what Paul writes. First he says, love is patient, love is kind. Then he goes on to say, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not envy, it does not boast, and it is not proud. You see, love directs attention back to God. Love directs attention back to God. Paul changes course at the end of this verse. At the beginning, he's saying, this is what love is. Love is patient, love is kind. Then he switches gears and kind of turns the tables a little bit and says what love is not. He goes on to say what love is not, and you'll find that in this verse, in this passage. As we look further, we begin to see what love is not. There are some negative things that Paul is trying to get us to avoid. There's some negative things that he wants us to change, some attitudes that he wants us to revise. Paul says that love does not envy, it does not boast, and it is not proud. When we're living out godly love, when we're living out godly love in our lives, the attention automatically doesn't fall to us. The attention doesn't fall to us, it goes to other people and ultimately to God. We're showing love to other people, and out of that, God is getting the glory and the honor for it. When we begin to envy things that people have, I want this and I want that, and I wish I could have what these people have. I wish I had the job or the car or the retirement package that this person has. Or if we begin to boast about what we do have and say, man, I'm pretty good. I've worked hard. I'm a hard worker. Look what I have accomplished. Look at all I've done. We begin to boast about that and be prideful about the things that have been accomplished. It begins to become all about us. The direction and the attention begins to become all about us and not about God. You see, we can't love ourselves and love others with equal attention. It doesn't work. When we're looking at ourselves, when we're looking at our lives, and we're directing the attention to us, we don't have the energy or the capacity to love other people. You just can't do it. When we're all about us, you can't give the attention to others and to God that we need to. Where do our thoughts dwell on a regular basis? Is it about what we want, or about what we're doing, about what we have or what we don't have? Where do our minds go? What are we thinking about on a regular basis? Hopefully, we're trying to think about how we can show love to others and direct attention back to God. The spotlight belongs to Him. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. This is familiar, really familiar passage, really familiar verse. This is what Jesus said. Really simple. He says, in the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. The things that we do need to give praise and honor to our Heavenly Father. That's what we're called to do. We're called to direct attention back to him. People look at our lives and see what we're doing, and it needs to give God glory and God honor, no matter what we're going through. If it's good things or if it's bad things. If we're facing challenges and hardships, or if we've been blessed beyond measure and we can't count all our blessings. We need to give that attention and that love to other people and ultimately back to God. That's what love does. Love gives attention back to God because he is love and he's the giver of all good things. Because he cares about us and loves us so very much. People, as a general rule, they like attention. They just do. And this past weekend, I discovered, I was kind of curious because every year you have the Super Bowl commercials, and that's kind of a big deal. And they spend a lot of money on them. And some people that don't like football, they like the commercials. They're like, I want to watch the commercials. I don't care about the football game. I'll go get chips and dip during that part. And then when the commercials are on, they want to see what's going on. Advertisers spent, you ready for this? $5 million for a 30-second ad this year. That's what I read. $5 million for a 30-second ad to be run on the Super Bowl. Which, if you break that down, and I'm not very good at math, so if this is wrong, this is what I read. It said it was $166,666 a second. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. And I was thinking about some of the ads, and there were a lot of different things, and I thought to myself, seriously, you all spent $5 million on Puppy, Monkey, Baby, if you saw that commercial? That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Seriously. What was up with that? I didn't get it. I'm still confused. And I don't care if I ever see it again. For that brief 30-second period, though, all eyes and all attention are on that product, or on that thing. So they've invested heavily in that. And for most of us, we would say that's ludicrous. Why would you ever do that? Why would you invest all that for that little bit of attention? But as I thought about it, and I thought about this high cost, I thought people do it all the time. You might say, well, I'm not spending $5 million on a 30-second ad. But you know what? Some people invest their whole lives in drawing attention to themselves. Some people invest every moment of every day trying to get attention for themselves, which makes the $5 million seem pretty small. They spend a lot of their time focused on what's best for me. What do I get out of things? What is it that I want? What do I desire? And they've invested everything. They've invested everything they have in that. From a young age, they've craved attention. And I don't mean it's not just famous people either. So lest you think that. There are people, just normal folks, that desire to be known. And they get jealous when focus shifts elsewhere. You probably know people like that. They get jealous when the focus isn't on them, when it's not all about them. We know those people. We have those people in our life. To love as Jesus did, everything that we must do has to point back to God and give him the glory. We've come to the point in our service where we have a time of invitation. And during this time, we're going to have to ask ourselves the question, are we modeling love with patience and kindness that Jesus did? Are we doing that? Are we pointing attention in all that we do back to God? Are we pointing it to him? Or are things more about ourselves? During this time of invitation, I want to encourage you, if you've yet to make Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior, I invite you to come as we sing. Or if you're having a hard time with loving and what it means to love and to show love and to do that, we'd love to pray with you, invite you to come, and we'd pray with you this morning, just privately. If you want to place your membership here at Twin Cities Christian Church, we invite you to come during this time as well. We'd love for you to be a part of our church family. So would you stand as we sing our closing hymn?